Don and I worked together years ago on a project that, funny enough, we literally can't talk about to this day. It's the only project that when I put on my resume, I literally got a cease and desist from a lawyer to remove it.
When did you work on this project?
2020?
During the
height of the pandemic. It was like beginning of the pandemic.
You say the height. Ago. I'd like to say it was the depths.
It was the depths. Yeah, you're right. From New Jersey to new media, this week we're joined by the one and only Don Fisco, an editor and assistant editor who's carved out a unique path in the post-production world. Specializing in Adobe Premiere, Don has become a go-to expert for navigating the evolving landscape of digital content. He's worked on everything from Snapchat Originals and Go90 series to Tubi feature films, and most recently served as senior lead assistant editor on Beast Games for Amazon Prime. In this episode, Don breaks down the mindset shift needed for new media productions and dives deep into the technical workflows that make or break a premiere project today.
Welcome to this episode of Sips and Clips. My name is Leanne McFalls.
I think my name is Michael Schusterman.
You think?
I think.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. I think, therefore I am.
Okay.
Feeling very existential this morning.
You're feeling very existential. Okay, yeah. If your name wasn't Michael Schusterman, what would it be then?
I think it would be Don Fisco.
Don Fisco?
Coincidence.
Whoa, speaking of Don Fisco, why don't you introduce him, Michael?
Today on the podcast, we have a guest and friend of mine, Don Fisco, who I think is known colloquially around town as the Premiere Pro Wizard.
Ugh.
And so we...
It's the best.
I just had to get that out of the way.
Don, do you want to introduce yourself?
Don Fisco, and not the premier wizard around all of town. Just
certain segments of it.
Maybe in the room, I don't know. But
I can tell you my distinct memory of Don. It was the first real professional project I was ever on. I was working with Don and our other friend Brandon. And I come in on this project that is having difficulties, I guess we should say. And I come in and I get assigned to Don's team that he's running. And Don comes up to me and Don looks like he's been through hell. This man looks fucking exhausted. And he comes up to me and he says, "All right, what do you know about onlining?" And I am like, "You mean like AAFs?" And Don goes, "Thank God you know what an AAF is." And that was where I was like, what is happening? So we were kind of in the trenches together for like 2 weeks and on this show. And
wow.
Or like a month. It was like a month.
We were up there for a month, and it was pretty much 7 days a week. And if you wanted to, it could be 24 hours a day.
Jeez.
Yeah, it literally was. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh,
it was psychotic.
God.
Real interesting time. But Don was the first person to tell me about the union.
Oh,
He
okay.
explained how the union worked. That was many, many years ago. So,
yeah.
But Leanne and I were talking about guests we want to have on the show. And I thought, we have all these avid people on. I remember and still know you to be the person I know who knows the most about doing premiere productions for Hollywood. So I thought it would be interesting to get that perspective on the show. I also think you've had a pretty unique carir. So I would love to kind of dig into it. But do you want to talk about what we're sipping on?
Of course. Let's talk about what we're sipping on. Michael, you were so nice to get us all Starbucks drinks, so why don't you go first?
I am drinking a cinnamon dolce latte.
Whoa.
With
almond milk?
With almond milk.
With almond milk.
Wow, what a surprise. What 3 fucking drinks do you have today, Leanne?
Hey, remember my 3-drink rule. It's been a while. Since I've had my 3 drinks. I got the nice vanilla sweet cream nitro cold brew from Starbucks. And I've got a kefir drink.
Oh my God, you're drinking kefir now?
I have been drinking kefir every day since Allison gave me kefir grains.
Wow.
Allison, friend of the podcast, episode 18.
Friend of the pod.
Came and spoke about kefir, and now I drink kefir. And thank you so much to Allison. Who knows if it works or not.
Michael's taking off his jacket and almost punched a hole through the wall.
But it's great. And then I just have my water because I got to stay hydrated, It's now getting to the depths of the heat wave.
I know, it's getting hot.
It's coming. It's supposed to be like 80 something this week, and we're getting to it. We're getting to summer. But Don, what are you sipping on?
I never know what to say when I'm asked when you're going on a Starbucks run, so kept it nice and simple with an iced coffee.
An iced coffee. Just a simple iced coffee?
Iced coffee.
Very complicated. There's
very simple.
milk
Yeah.
We have milk in it.
Milk. No sugar?
No.
Ah, man. I saw you were drinking also a Diet Coke.
Yeah,
right?
no. It'd be better if it was a Diet Pepsi, but it does say girl.
It does say
Really?
girl.
Girl.
Which I
You're-
saw and I
You're a Diet
really-
Pepsi fan? Not a
Oh,
diet.
yeah.
I'm a Diet Coke stan. I drink like 3 cans a day.
I
Diet
think
Pepsi?
it goes like Diet Pepsi's at the top, then Coca-Cola, then Pepsi, and then at the bottom is Diet Coke.
You know what's astonishing? Don Edison Premier and drinks Pepsi. He does the opposite of
Of you.
of me. Well, Don, let's hop into it. We like to start off these episodes just by honestly just getting your basic story of how you got into editorial, what drew you to filmmaking in the first place, and then what drew you to the editor chair. Basically, give the 1,000-mile high view of your career thus far. Basically,
Like you said, it's a little non-traditional from the start, I guess. Back in high school,
and where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Where in New Jersey?
Everyone always says that. Everyone does it. They go, "Oh, Joyzy." And it's
Joyzy.
Well,
that-
I'm
it's
from
a Staten.
Philly.
Ah,
So
that's why they do that.
I did not say New Jersey.
New Jersey.
I genuinely am like, wait, I'm from the same. My dad lives in Ocean City, New Jersey.
Oh, nice.
And that's where I also spent a lot of summers.
Well, I grew up in Manville, New Jersey.
Okay. No, is that north or south?
Central.
Oh, Central
Which does
Jersey.
exist. It's like the little neck part of it. But in high school, at one point, I had the option through the machinations of my mom, like helped out with either taking Eastern civilization history, which I kind of like tested out of. I could have taken it again, or I could have taken like these independent study classes where I ended up taking like computer graphics with Mrs. Kowalski, who was a great professor of mine or teacher of mine. And as soon as I started with her, all my classes were like independent study. And so I started doing like editing basically since I was like 15. Tried to do like directing and all the other roles and just never really enjoyed it. Besides,
Did you start doing that because you like were going to the movie theater and saw a bunch of movies that you liked, or was this just like you needed credit for school? And
fun thing about the movie theaters that the Manville also had the Manville movie theater, a big 16-plex. It was like the only really cool thing about growing up there. My dad and I always loved going to the movie theater. He always wanted me to work at the movie theater, and I was like, that is for losers. I'm not going to work at that movie theater. And it turns out, we looked at this up in the newspaper. You can look it up yourself. A guy named Sean Baker worked there.
Oh my God.
At that movie theater when my dad was trying to get me to work there. I would have been working with Sean Baker.
wow.
Man, you could have. Where would your life be now if you had only worked at a movie theater where Sean Baker
With a
worked?
butterfly effect, maybe I'd be actually running that movie theater instead of going into...
Could have.
That's true.
You know?
Yeah.
So when you were, when you did try editing, what program were you using at the time?
I think the original program was Premiere.
Wow.
And then I switched over to...
This is what,
to
2008?
Final Cut.
2003.
This would have been 2003. I guess I'm an old, old man.
Told you. I told you,
Yes.
Michael, that you're young.
I'm not. What?
I think when I met you, you were like 16 years old. Man.
Oh my God.
I think you met me.
Might as well be.
I had just turned 21. Yeah, God, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so this was early Premiere. Final Cut 6 was just out. I don't remember the exact timeline.
Yeah.
But we switched over to Final Cut 6 during my junior year of high school and used that for a couple years. And then eventually ended up going to Rampo College in New Jersey. I know everyone's heard it. Everyone knows that illustrious
Infamous,
school.
yeah.
And got a degree there that didn't really help me much at all. So I was trying to make a little production company that went nowhere. So I decided
What did you go to college for?
digital filmmaking with a minor in music.
So you did go for film.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it really didn't help open any kind of doors whatsoever. I did intern at Sesame Street. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Got to
On set?
Yes, I was actually in production. And there was
Wow.
another
You get to hang out with
intern.
Elmo and Big Bird. And,
Yeah, Kevin Clash and Carol Spinney.
Wow.
Carol Spinney, he was the guy that was Big Bird and Oscar the Grouch.
What was that like?
I mean,
what was
the-
that like
the
to just
entire-
see Elmo be animated and be like,
It was very strange, like behind the scenes, because they were just switching over to high definition at the time.
Okay.
So things that had previously weren't visible on camera were. So the sets were being redesigned. They were very, very particular about especially like Elmo's eyes, because they could get scratched. So when you when you walked
crazy.
in there was like bags over his head. Like,
Oh, like a Guantanamo Bay
Yeah.
prisoner that you were like unfurling? Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
yeah, but a lot of great people there. But it was interesting because at the time there was another intern that wanted to be in production and I wanted to be in post. And we only really ever got like one day to switch. But that was a really amazing day where I got to like sit in with the editors,
Yeah. Oh,
and
cool.
just sat there in the back of the room during lunch basically and watched them pull together an
Did they
entire
film this
3-camera.
show in New Jersey?
Kaufman Astoria, Queens,
Oh, in New
Okay.
York. And for this production company you didn't start it in New York. You started it
in New Jersey. Yeah, and it was like I did a lot of like live events.
Okay.
So that obviously was not very profitable, and I was like, I'm gonna go to grad school and spend a ton of money, and that didn't really prove to be profitable either. But,
Where'd you go to grad school?
Boston University.
Oh, BU. Okay.
Yes, for television production.
Okay, television production.
And the pitch that they gave was that it would be a lot more like hands-on production. There would be, you'd actually be doing also post-production, but it was very much about producing. It was like a producing program. So eventually by the second semester, I TA'd 3 of the classes that were supposed to be the classes I was taking.
Oh, wow.
So in the end, the last semester, when you're doing your like thesis, everyone did like a producing packet. I was like, I'm going to make a feature documentary. And it was about like the craft brew industry, like home brewing and craft, transition from home brew to craft beer, because that was a big thing coming up in Massachusetts at the time. And I put together like almost an hour-long documentary. My advisor wanted some changes. And by that point, I was already out here in LA. And I never did those changes. And so I technically never got the degree.
Really?
Yeah.
They never gave it to you?
I never got the degree. So,
Oh my God.
so despite, spending the money and having like across the board, like A's, never got the degree.
Oh my God.
But that goes to show that school does not matter at all for our field whatsoever.
Christ.
And if I tell anyone on a job, they're like, hey, I went to grad school for television. They're like, what, are you an idiot? So for dear listeners, don't spend money on grad school.
Anyway, so when did you move out here though? Did you come right after?
The last semester of the BU program brought you out here to do like internships and stuff like that.
Got it.
So that was in September of 2012.
And have you been out here since?
Yep. There was 15 people in our program. Then there was also a film production program that had 15 people. There was like 8 screenwriters and some various other programs. Trying to think of how many are still out here in LA that are still working. I think it's probably like 6 or 7. And most people have moved away or changed industries or fields.
It's funny because now I talk to my friends who are out here that I went to college with. Like I was literally just with my friend yesterday and he was like, oh yeah, we came out here about like 10 years ago and we're still out here. We're still out here. And if someone that we know that we went to college with left, it's like, they left. They it's kind of like funny to talk about like who is still out here and hanging in and sticking it and who's like, I went back
I
home.
remember I had a professor in film school tell me that. He was like, by the way, he had the statistics on hand and I don't know what they are now, but he was like, by the way, when you get out into the industry, 60% of you will change career paths to something outside of entertainment, like something like that. And I remember like when I was in film school and everyone is like so obsessed with this shit and we're on set 24/7 and everyone's like got their set gear and everyone's doing the set lingo and like we're talking about the movies we're making and the movies, everyone's seeing movies all the time and all this shit. You think to yourself like, that's no way that's true. There's no way that like these people who are so passionate about this, fast forward 5 years from now, we're not going to be doing this. And fast forward 5 years, fucking 20% of my class, I think, is probably still in the industry. I think it's just the reality of it.
The number of people over the years that I've known that were like, I'm not going to take any other job outside the industry. I didn't come here to be, like a barista or a waiter or an assistant. I came here to write movies.
Or
it's
a
like,
real estate agent.
Lots of people did.
Yeah.
But you have to like work with what you got.
Or like, okay, you got to take that waiter, barista, whatever job and then do the stuff on the side. You gotta like, if you want to write on the weekends, write after work, like if you're really passionate about it. So
Yeah. I guess this is probably leading to my next question, but we talk a lot on the show about even like how difficult it is, even for below the line people to get started, getting into the unions and everything like that. So kind of on that wavelength, what was your first like real entertainment job when you got out here? How'd you get your days? What was your path to going from making this a dream to making it a career?
So I had 2 internships when I got out here, and I was hoping that they would smoothly turn over to being
A career.
jobs. Of course, that did not happen. You get those internships there. I don't know if internships now are all paid or not. I've heard that there's more that are paid. But at the time, they were not. They were unpaid. So had a period of a couple months where I had nothing going on. I was down to, I think, a couple $100s, and I had like another month rent to go. One of my professors from undergrad at Ramapo, she was looking to start working at another school, and she just needed a couple recommendations from former students. And I had worked with her. She was a documentary professor, and she introduced me to a lot of like non-traditional documentaries and all this kind of stuff. So we'd always like kept in touch a little bit online. She'd reached out, asked for a recommendation. I gave her one, and then she put me in contact with a casting company that needed a casting editor. And so I
Cut
started
reels and stuff.
Yes. So for an entire, I don't know, like 6-month period, maybe more, I did casting editing for like 15, 20 different shows.
wow.
So for 2 or 3 different companies. And it's like, you don't have an assistant editor kind of thing.
Yeah, just you.
It's just
like-
you, and you're kind of crafting stories from like combination of Skype interviews that they've done with casting producers and like sent in tapes. And you have to like really come up with stories. They'll want like 20 contestants for a show maybe, but you'll get like 100 reels, and you have to like bring these maybe like 20 minutes of material or an hour of material and condense it into a 2-minute sizzle. And you've got to make like 5 of those a day. And you just
Jeez.
It's for like a game show or
game shows,
Survivor,
reality
whatever.
TV shows. I worked on like Face Off for Sci-Fi. I'm trying to think.
Oh, I remember that show. That was
Yeah.
the
Makeup
makeup
and
show.
stuff, yeah.
That was great.
So there's a lot
It
of
was
lot of
pretty
good
cool.
visuals that they could include there.
So you got the job at a casting agency.
Yep.
How'd you transition that to a?
I basically did the casting editing for, like I said, a bunch of months over at Pittman Casting and then over at Pilgrim. I'm trying to remember exactly how I got the transition over to this, but ended up working at Zodiac, which I think is a company that doesn't exist anymore, doing assistant editing for Celebrity Wife Swap and
Okay.
for Killer Karaoke
Wow.
Nice.
were the 2 big ones. So
Wow. You were an AE on those shows?
yes.
Wow.
So I did that for like a real quick minute.
What are you working in?
That was Avid.
Okay.
Ah,
we have
okay.
to keep prefacing the fact that Don is a Premiere editor. So now I feel like I have to keep following
Well,
your
I-
editing program
Well,
journey.
Don does both.
I
but-
like Premiere, Final Cut, Avid, Resolve, really whatever one. Premiere is just the one that has made me the most money over the years.
I
So
see.
those
I see.
shows, Celebrity Wife Swap and the other one, that I presume got you your days.
No, actually, that'll come later in the story.
Oh, please, okay, get to
yeah.
it.
So did that, and then when that was finishing up, I don't remember, there's a little blank here. I don't remember exactly how it happened, but Omelet, which was the ad agency that I'd interned with, they had an opening for the editor position because the editor that I'd interned under was leaving because
wow.
the company
Okay.
was kind of like splitting. There was going to be another like half of the company. So he was like, just have Don come back because Don already knows. He already set up like kind of the backbone, the workflow while I was interning. So I came back in and boom, back on Premiere. Because ad agencies, in my
Premiere.
experience, they all use Premiere because
Yeah.
you're integrating with Photoshop and Illustrator, After Effects, all the other creatives are all using the Adobe system.
Would you say that's kind of the only reason that they use Premiere is because they can integrate well, or is there like other aspects of Premiere?
I'd
that
say
you
that's
think work
probably
It's also
number
it's.
one.
I worked at an ad agency as well, and we use Premiere there. There's just honestly like I at least I know for us it was just the keyframe system in Premiere is so much better than Avid. It's just miles and miles more intuitive and easier and faster to keyframe damn near anything. And client, especially when you're working on really short form content that's like 30 seconds, 2 minutes straight to TV spots or whatever. At least at that time, it was like They want to be able to do opticals and keyframes instantly. And the same type of optical that you would do in Avid might take you 2 minutes in Premiere, and it'll take you 20 minutes in Avid.
And with Premiere, it may not be recommended for bigger projects, but for a small like sizzle, you can just like drag and drop media right in there. Boom, you're done. With Avid, you may have to be
You got to make DNX media, and you got to do it all properly, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, very quick, and it'll take like pretty much any codec, container. You just can throw it into Premiere, and it may not run perfectly well because you want to, and I'm going to stress this a lot probably on this, you want to use proxies all the time in Premiere for smooth playback, but Premiere can handle pretty much whatever you bring into it. And it just may, like when you add a lot of assets, it'll slow down, the performance will be poor. But with Avid, you have to do a lot of setup up front.
So you're back at the ad agency. Now you're in editing now.
Yep. I was the in-house editor there for like 5 years. And then I had to do like everything myself. I handle everything myself. So from beginning to end, for ingest to, edit, online, color correction, audio. So it really, for 5 years, was a one-man band. And that kind of made me very independent for all editing. So I only had a little bit of experience as like assisting people in the beginning. But I knew the workflows that were needed, soup to nuts, what editors and post houses would need because of doing this at the ad agency. But eventually they, didn't want to give any raises. So I left there to do my first.
Why would anybody want to give someone a raise?
I know, right? I left for my first scripted show where I was the lead AE, and it was for a Go 90 show, and Go 90 is now gone.
Go 90.
I know Go 90. Why do I know Go 90?
Go 90 was a platform that the idea was like you go 90.
Oh, it was the vertical thing.
Yeah,
it was Quibi before Quibi.
Yes, and you were supposed to turn your phone sideways, Go 90, so you could watch your programs.
I remember you telling me about this.
And I worked with Jay Edwards, who was the editor for every single episode, basically, of Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
Oh, cool.
And he taught me a bunch about how to like organize the footage, how to like mark up the scripts for editors and stuff like that.
And was this?
And that one was and I was hired for that because he worked in Premiere, because that's what they used for Aqua Teen for everything.
Was this a union show or no?
This one was not, because it was Go 90, and they pretty much were never non-union, from what I knew. Yeah, it all felt like under like new media stuff. Yeah, but this one was not. After that one though, I left that and I went to Defy Media. And I don't know, do you know Kenny Kiesecker? Mm-mm. He is my co-senior lead on Beast Games. And he's fantastic, knows all editing programs. And he, this is where I met him, was on a show called Oishi. He introduced me to like the ins and outs of the union. And on the production end of things, they flipped the show. And because they flipped the show... Oh, the production
crew did?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And because the production crew flipped it, we were already on the show working in post. The show got flipped.
So you didn't really have to do much days then, did you?
No. I mean, I had like a bunch of days from doing the previous show for Go 90.
I remember Oishi Demon Hunter. This was the live action cartoon thing. I was literally like, I know this.
I worked on a season that didn't get released because the flipping, I think, cost a bunch of money, and there was some other extra things.
Oh my God. And then, so you were a union by that point. What year is this?
This would have been 2017 or 18.
Oh, 2017.
Because I had worked.
Oh, okay.
I had now worked at the ad agency for like 5 years. So.
Oh, you were at the ad agency for 5 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my God. So you had a whole life in the ad world.
Yeah.
How did you move? Because when I met you, you had just come off doing a bunch of Snapchat stuff. Mm-hmm. So how did you get to the Snapchat thing?
I went back from Defy back to Insurrection Media, which is where I had done the first scripted show, which was Liberty Crossing. And then I just came back for another one, which was Dead Girls Detective Agency.
Yeah, that's what I remember you working on. I also remember I met you, and you had worked on Imagineering, the Imagineering doc series, and I had literally just watched that. I remember that being like my first, like, I met somebody who worked on something I watched. Oh my God. Like, I remember that being such an exciting thing at the time. Do you have any fun stories about that at all?
Oh, the Imagineering story for
that
Disney
show's
Plus.
that docuseries is crazy. I've met other people who've worked on that randomly. It is one of the best things. It's like one of the best docuseries I've seen.
The reason I worked on that show was because it was on it was in Premiere, but it was in team projects. And I don't know if any of our listeners.
One of the questions I want to ask you about is about team projects. And
well, I would say don't use team projects anymore.
We're in productions.
Use
now,
productions.
right? Yeah.
Productions are fantastic, and team projects. I mean, I still use them for some things, but it's buggier and a problem. And that was never made more clear than when I was brought on an Imagineering story, because they had been on standalone projects. They converted to team projects back when team projects was brand new. Then they converted it back to standalone, and they did that back and forth for a couple years.
Oh, God.
And eventually it broke.
Jeez.
Wow.
So in team projects at the time, I don't know if the infrastructure is still the same, but they don't use like file paths, the traditional folder structure. They use like locator IDs, and those locator IDs to us are just gibberish. They don't mean
But it's
anything.
like back end, the computer understands what
And so when you go to like link media, the file path is nothing, and it's just like the locator ID is
weird.
ridiculous.
Oh, God.
So I basically would go in there like on weekends or at night, and I would just like make the connections again for the 10,000s of assets that they had.
Oh my God.
And like I had to redo the entire docuseries.
Jeez.
I know you just came off of Beast Games. Can you talk about how you got onto Beast Games? Because I feel like you have this career now that you're basically establishing where you're hopping almost from premiere project to premiere project. You're probably becoming known around town, and the producers that you work with is like, oh, Don, the AE who can handle the big show that's in Premiere. And I know Beast works in Premiere. Is that how that worked out, basically?
Yeah, so Michael Keenberg, who is the head post supervisor on season 1, he had posted on Facebook, and at this point last summer was probably like the longest period I hadn't worked. It was like, and I felt really lucky. I had only
This
not
is like
worked
during writer strike and everything like that.
Yeah, this is after it. Yeah, so I was very lucky. It was only a period of like 4 months where I hadn't been working, and that was in the summer. And so at the end of that 4-month period, Keenberg had posted on Facebook about how they were they needed like the best of Premiere. And normally whenever I apply to any jobs, I'm very like, oh, I can help out. But at this point, for 4 months, I was like,
Give me a job.
I was like, you're not going to find anyone better. That was just like the title of the email. I was like, you can keep looking, you're not going to find anyone better. And it was like the haughtiest thing I had ever done in a job application. And he messaged me like that day, and did an interview, and he's like, all right, you're on.
Great. Wow. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Did you have to go to, did they film here or did they film in North Carolina?
Season 1, they filmed in Toronto.
In Toronto?
Yes.
Did you have to go to Toronto?
And
or did you
in
do it
Panama. Toronto and Panama.
In Panama?
Yes.
My God.
But also
Go to Toronto and Panama?
they did not have us fly.
Well, here. Yeah. You have this, I guess I'm really curious because I feel like there's a lot of pressure, especially when you're starting out in editorial and assistant editorial, to try to go the traditional path. Learn Avid, get a job on a reality TV show, post PA on a feature, become an assistant editor, blah, 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 blah. You've kind of shirked off that somewhat traditional path, both just in terms of career trajectory, and then also in this decision to be one of the industry's foremost experts on a Premiere workflow. What's your thought process behind that? Why do that? Why? I'm sure you had editors and assistant editors telling you like, give up on Premiere, go learn Avid, go get a job in reality, and then go get a job in scripted. Why not do that?
Well, I feel like I bet on the right horse with the program, because I do think that now with the way things are going with the studios and with AI and development, at least what I've seen with job posting, stuff like that, there's more and more Premiere work. There's less and less Avid stuff because the studios are doing less and less. So these young content creators, they've all been trained, or they just taught themselves in Premiere.
So you saw it as the editing program of the future.
I saw a lot of potential for it. I mean, they have constant updates going on with new features, and half the time they need to be fixed. But they do fix them. They do fix a lot of those features pretty quickly, and they respond to feedback.
Yeah.
And Avid is like this giant ship that like takes a lot of time to like course correct and move and respond, but they're rock solid, But to answer the original question, when I was applying to jobs when I first came out here, I would apply to a lot of Avid jobs, a lot of traditional stuff, because I knew how to use Avid then, I know now, but there was a lot more competition for those. Everyone was doing that work. Everyone was trying to go for those roles. And so I would be applying for the Premiere ones, and I would get callbacks all the time because no one else was doing like the bigger, more professional workflows. Like they could do like smaller one-off things, or they wouldn't accept like something that was like really low pay. And at the time, like you'd be like, okay, I'm going to do a bunch of low paying jobs simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so having to balance like 2, 3, sometimes 4 jobs where you do one in the morning, one at night, 2 on the weekends. It's just like much more chaotic and stressful than the traditional way, but it's allowed me to constantly always be working.
It's interesting now that we have things like Beast Games, right? And we have things like, I think there was probably a period of time where like Hollywood was like, let's try to make content creators celebrities. And it was kind of a crash and burn dumpster fire. And I feel like we're kind of coming back to it again with like Beast Games and other things. And it's going more successfully this time. Do you feel like you being on kind of that cutting edge of like, I mean, even Oishi was a YouTube show, right? You're kind of on almost the cutting edge of like this content creator space meets somewhat a legitimate scripted content space, or not scripted, you know what I mean, right? High professional media. Thank you. Do you feel like your time in Premiere and all that is like, are you looking forward to this kind of almost new dynamic and how you're going to be poised for it, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting because so many jobs are, as we all know, disappearing.
Yeah.
I can't. I think that a lot of people are hearing when they're working, like from their supervisors or a showrunner and exec, like, how can we use AI to help out in your position? And that's always code for like, how can we use AI to replace you?
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of worries about that, and I think that is especially worrisome in the non-union YouTube space, because, they don't really have that traditional worry about like doing things properly or, with like the union protections and things like that. Just like whatever it takes to get it done. I don't know if that answers that.
No, that's interesting. Yeah.
It sounds like that you kind of went into Premiere just because there were more jobs in it for you.
Yeah,
were you drawn to the content? Were you drawn to the kind of scrappier, get shit done kind of mentality?
I personally don't watch a ton of reality programs. I know that a lot of people that work in reality don't love the content, but I liked the challenge of weird workflows and things that didn't necessarily like exist already. I liked having to come up with the way that we would do it, and being able to have that authority to be like, no, that's not efficient. That's not a good way to do it. And like, let's come up with the best way to do something. And Premiere allowed that a lot more, because a lot of times like Avid is kind of like driving an automatic vehicle, in that like it just you do it this way. This is the right way it works. And if you just can't do it another way. But in Premiere, it's very much like a manual or like a stick shift. They let you do whatever you want. But if you don't do it right, you're just going to blow up the car.
Yeah.
Which I love about Avid. I need to just know how to do it right. Stick with that for the rest of my life.
I guess speaking of that, most of the people who listen to our show are scripted or unscripted Avid assistant editors or editors. What would you say to those people? Like, I guess, like, what's your pitch to those people about why they should pick up this program and learn how it works and why it's important?
I guess for my example, like with like Beast Games, the Mr. Beast channel, they do so much of their own like graphics and visual effects in-house. They don't ship it out to like another company or anything like that. They just make those effects. You can't really easily do that quickly in Avid, and because they also want to work with the high resolution media
in edit.
In edit. So with Premiere, we have the proxy workflow. So you'll have the proxy media is attached to the full resolution media, and you have like a little proxy switch, and you can
toggle back
between them. So they're always both attached at all times. In Avid, you don't really have that exact functionality. And with Premiere, then you can just like right click that clip that you want to like work with, do some visual effects on, some graphics work, and you can just
instantly open it After Effects.
Boom, send it right over there. No rendering out, nothing like that. You don't have to make plates of anything. And they'll do that in one episode, like literally hundreds of times. Hundreds of shots will do that. And you imagine like the extra time that would take in your round trip workflow, like exporting out of Avid, bring it in After Effects.
So you're almost saying like if you're on a show that's got these kinds of like integrated vertical workflows, vertical productions from top to bottom, where it's like, well, I understand, Beast is a different beast, right? Like they run a different kind of ship there where they've got visual effects artists in-house and they've got sound designers in-house and they've got musicians in-house and they've got all these people there. Premiere probably gives you that flexibility to just like move fast and break things, as opposed to Avid shows where it's like we are going out, we're bidding stuff out to different vendors and we're going through rounds of review and we're doing things very slow and methodically. And so
Premiere, for better or worse, allows you to go much faster with whatever ideation you have.
Gotcha. So you see it as more of like the tool for the right kind of show, kind of situation.
Yep.
That makes sense. What do you hate about Premiere? What currently is driving you crazy about it?
Like I said earlier, that you can bring pretty much any piece of media into Premiere. People will go, it should work then really, really well. And so
that's not true.
Be bringing in like H.264 media, H.265, and they'll try and, they'll put together like a multicam, a group of like 5 or 6 cameras, and they're 4K media, and they're like, it's on if it's on a solid state drive, but sometimes it's on a hard drive, believe it or not, these days. And they're like, my computer is great. It's a brand new computer. Why is it running like crap? Premiere is awful. And it's like, well, just because it can bring it into the program, you should still be making the proxies like Apple ProRes, proxy media, and then it'll run back just fine. And they go, well, that shouldn't be. Like, I have a brand new computer, and then you have to like fight that battle over and over again, being on be it on Facebook forums or on Reddit or something like that, and like people just do not like that answer.
Right.
Premiere should have this capability to be just, it lets me bring it in.
It's funny that like almost as you make something more intuitive, right? More because like Premiere is so user intuitive that it is funny that like almost by doing that you introduce a new litany of problems, which is like, because Avid is so, it has such a learning curve to it, you do have to learn a lot about like proxy workflow basically from the jump. Like you have to learn about like the idea that like video playback works best when it's all the same type of media and when the video engine is running the same, like blah, 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 all this stuff. That like almost as you make something easier to use, you introduce new problems just because of that.
Since Avid is a little bit more opaque that way, people respect the workflow that process. You have to do it this way.
Yeah.
It's also funny because when you were giving that example, my thought process was also that example doesn't apply specifically to Premiere either. So it's funny that people are like, well, Premiere should work that way. It's like, well, in general, if video is like a very high resolution, no matter what even if you're trying to play it back on your computer, it still could be laggy or something. So it's just funny to hear someone complain about Premiere when it's really like you're complaining about the concept of trying to play back a high resolution video in general, but it's not Premiere's problem. It's just
it's the
how
type
it is.
Of the prosumer user that is attracted to using Premiere because of the low barrier of entry that you get. Because I think there are just so many college students, YouTubers, just
I started on Premiere because at that time it was like Final Cut Pro. We just moved to Final Cut Pro X, and that was $400 on the Mac App Store. And then I had not even heard of Avid till I got to college. And then I was using Sony Vegas for a tiny bit, but I just remember being like, there's just not enough tutorials online. But there was a litany of YouTube tutorials about Premiere, and they had just moved to CC, and you could get CC as a student for $20 a month or something. So I was able to, on my measly allowance money, be able to get Premiere. So Premiere at that time was it was the only option. It was like the only place where you could learn without having an editing person sitting behind me teaching me. It was like I could learn on YouTube and I could do stuff. So no, I mean, I think nowadays most people cut their teeth in Premiere.
More and more Resolve non-studio is free.
Yeah. Well, Studio's not free. Regular non-studio is free. Yes.
So yeah, those two programs I think are going to be a larger and larger share as students and just regular YouTubers age up. The industry is not teaching people Avid really.
No.
I mean there are some programs for it, but it's not super wide and accessible.
This is probably a bit of a technical question, but I did use Adobe Premiere or what is it? Shit.
Productions or Teams?
Premiere Teams, whatever it was called. What was it called?
There's Teams, which is
that was the old
that's
one.
Like kind of like a little bit cloud based, but that's for like the project.
Yeah.
And Productions, which is basically like using Avid.
Yeah, so I have used both. I have not really understood what was going on in both.
I only used Productions, and I was like, okay, this kind of makes sense. This
Productions
sort of
is
makes sense.
fantastic.
Yeah,
I was so confused. I was like, but I had nobody teaching me. I'd taken over for an assistant editor on a show for 2 weeks, and they were like, we just basically need you to send outputs to different producers. And I was like, okay, I can figure that out. But I still was like, I have no fucking clue what's going on here. I would love for you just like, can you give us the top-down view of like, how does Adobe Productions work? How does the workflow work for something like that? And then on Beast Games, did you guys have a Nexus? Did you have shared storage with bin locking and stuff like that?
Yep. So Productions for Avid users, it's not that far of a jump. It's very, very similar. They tried to mimic the workflow for it. A normal Premiere project is just like a project now.
Yeah.
There's now an extra layer on top of that. The extra level is the production, is what like an Avid project is. So the Premiere projects become kind of like bins. You know?
The project file itself becomes like a bin.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay.
you have to treat that like a bin. So you wouldn't put all of your assets, all of your sequences into one Premiere project. Now each project is like specific use.
Which it took me, because that's when I worked at the ad agency for a little bit, that's how we use like Productions. And it still took me a little bit to change my mindset that project is essentially a bin. So like you were saying, if you were to have an outputs, you would just have an outputs project. If you were to have someone's work, it would be like Leanne's work in its own project. Is that
That
correct?
makes sense, because the way an Avid bin works is it can have sequences in it, it can have media in it, it can have titles in it can have whatever you want it.
And that's exactly how you would organize it.
And that's how that would make sense. So can I open up my Productions file for Beast Games and see a project titled Reel 1 and Reel 2? I mean, I know it's a TV show, but
there's like
episode 1, episode 2.
A Premiere project like itself. It's a file that is contained inside the folder structure. If you were in like the Finder or the Explorer, depending on which operating system you're on, you would see that mimicked inside of Premiere. So it's like a one-to-one. You don't want to be working in the Finder or the Explorer because there's certain things that when you're in Premiere, it knows how to handle those folder structures and assign ID numbers and stuff like that. So you stay inside of Premiere for it. But you would have like individual folders inside this production panel that is new to Premiere. And inside those folders, you have individual projects. And so we would have we'd have your folder that has all your raw media. Then you'd have all your folder, with like all the editor work. You'd have like a folder for all your graphics and your VFX. You break them down as small as you can, because the bigger the project is, people that have worked in Premiere, like if you have like a big documentary or something like that, it takes forever to save. It takes forever to open.
Yeah, one project file takes a million years to open. It's
the limit of the project size, but not the production size. Productions can scale not infinitely, but gigantic. You can have a huge one.
Do you have best workflows inside your team? Like when you're running, because you were the senior lead for Beast, right? Are you telling your junior AEs and your seconds and being like, this project file can't be bigger than 100 megabytes? Like, are you telling them like, hey, in order to stop this problem of it taking 45 minutes to open the reel or whatever, are you setting some type of arbitrary
that is our best practice? Because of how season 1 worked, we weren't able to fully do that. For those who aren't aware, season 1 had
10,000 bagillion cameras.
Yeah, a little over 1,100 cameras. We had 1,000 contestants, so 1,000 sources of audio.
I had a friend of mine who was one of the contestants on the show.
Funny enough, like almost everyone I run into, they go like, I knew someone, and they tell me the contestant number, and I'm like, I recognize the face.
He was gone. Yeah. He got out in the first.
What number do you know?
Fuck if I know. I have no clue.
So I have a question. So if you're working in like your folder, right? Let's just say like Don's work folder has like all of your editing wheels and stuff. Now, if you have to go into the graphics and get something from graphics, how do you bring it? Do you just copy paste and now all those files are in your folder? Like how
media,
does that work?
The best practice that one of the things that I tried to constantly enforce, because we had 30 at our max. We had 31 assistant editors.
Oh my God.
We had around 20 or 25 editors on because Amazon was one that hired us, but there's also the Beast
team.
they're from their main channel. And so we had on their end, they also had around 15 editors that came on. We had story producers. So we had probably around 60 to 80 people that would be working in the production.
Oh my God.
So when people say that Premiere can't handle this, like they used to not be able to, it can now.
Yeah.
So this was like the biggest TV show I know about.
You guys are the Avatar of the like Avatar had like 60 people.
We worked with some of the programmers at Adobe, you know.
And Avatar works with the programmers
Oh, yeah,
at
you know
Avid.
Ben
It's the
Insler?
same thing.
Ben Insler.
Ben Insler, yeah, I worked with him on Batman.
Mitch Wood. But yeah, you don't need to copy the media. If it's in the production, the media only needs to exist in one project. It uses references to recognize that it's in the production. So as long as it's in there, you don't copy it in multiple places. If you were to do that, then if you want to do like a match frame back, it's going to match frame back to that individual asset.
Just like the way Avid works. It's
Yes,
the same way Avid
exactly.
works.
So what you
and
would
then
do
if
is you would make
you're-
like sequence string outs of media if you wanted to give the people that. So if you wanted to make like the multicams, we don't like give people a copy of the multicam or the group. You would then put that multicam and group on like a sequence, and then
then
they
bring
could
the sequence.
They could bring that sequence over there,
Okay.
and so they don't have
Yeah,
another
yeah.
copy of the media. So say we update the multicam, we add markers, whatever we might be doing to it. That
Mm-hmm.
version that's on their sequence will update as well. If they had copied it, that's a separate version.
Yeah.
and they would
I
no longer do
see.
that.
It's the same way. It's the
you're
same way
doing
Avid
all of
works. Like if
the-
you create more media, if like I duplicate a master clip and I put a marker on one master clip, it won't show up on the other master clip. But if I put it in the sequence, it'll show up.
And I can't remember exactly with Avid, with at least with productions, it won't do that update unless you've like now opened the project
Yeah.
that had the
Avid
original.
does the same.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And so and it has bin locking, but it's project locking.
So it's project locking. So if you have episode 1 of Beast Games open, and then I try to open it, it will open locked.
yes.
Okay, great. So I can still pull media from the bin. It's just I can't make
It'll be read-only.
write changes until I get it from you. Same way Avid works.
Exactly.
Okay.
The best practice that I was trying to enforce was that you should really only ever have in your projects just sequences. And that will make your projects just run a lot smoother and cleaner.
What's your best practices? This is the only thing that I had when I was on the last Premiere productions that I was on. I couldn't figure out a great, robust workflow for turnovers. Maybe do you feel like is that a place where Premiere is struggling, or maybe I just didn't know what I was doing? Like I'll just give you one example of what I was struggling with. I was doing a DI turnover, so I had put like dailies on V1, opticals on V2, VFX plate on V3, et cetera, going all the way. But it was difficult. Like in Avid, I can make a list tool and I can send out EDLs of every single video track. Like I'll be done with that task in 30 seconds. In Premiere, last I checked, it was like you had to right-click the sequence and then do export to EDL, and it would export out the whole sequence as EDL. Have they updated that kind of functionality since last time I worked on it, or is it still that's the case? You have to make a bunch of sequences and then export them out as EDLs.
I mean, you can export EDLs based on the tracks. You know, you could export.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
I think I'm answering the question.
Yes,
right?
I think so. Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't find I'm just basically trying to get to like even the turnover process that is so robust and Avid is you feel like it's there in Premiere to do all the same
I mean,
things.
it can,
AAFs, EDLs.
We did pretty much 90% of the online and the finishing. You know, we didn't do the color in Premiere, but we did like a lot of the online and finishing in Premiere.
Oh wow, really?
We
Did you deliver at a Premiere?
Yes.
wow.
We worked with the Saw, which is a great post
Is that a DI house?
Yeah.
So you had all of your 4K ungraded media in Premiere, and then you would export out DPXs to resolve for them to do color?
The project manager in Premiere is probably the buggiest thing in Premiere still. There is another tool called Plume Pack, which we would utilize, which is much better at it.
How did you do roundabout turnovers to resolve then?
So what we would do is
I assume you did color and resolve.
Yes. But what we would do is we would do the project manager for whatever we could, and things that proved to be problematic, we would like run it through Plume Pack, which was better at like actually giving you those handles. And
then you would provide an EDL, and then so this Plume Pack is doing the consolidation of the media.
We would deliver to the Saw because the Saw was because we had QSR was our IT company.
Yeah.
They had like a backdoor to the Saw so that their Nexus we could just basically export the media, the project managing right to the Saw's computers. So it was really just like a project managed Premiere project that we would give them. Larry Fitzgerald over at the Saw.
You gave them the Premiere. Oh, you just gave them the Premiere, and then they rebuilt it on their end using the Premiere project.
Yeah, I mean, well, I basically built it for him so it'd be ready to go, and he'd open it up and it was exactly what it needed to be, and then he would do like the online stuff. He needed to do the paint outs and like anything like that. He would then like prep what he wanted to send over to Resolve and the way he wanted to do it with his colorists.
Wow. And you didn't do what is it, Adobe Audition, did you? You did.
I didn't use Audition that much, just a little bit.
But your final mix was done in Pro Tools on stage, I presume.
Yes, that was at Levels.
Levels
did.
My biggest issue was getting out guide tracks because you have to, well, this is what I wanted to ask you too, because Michael was talking about getting out an EDL. What is an easy way to do guide tracks? Because I had to go through and solo every single DX and then mute all the other ones and then go back and do every single, like, I mean, I can't imagine doing that for like 28 tracks. So like, is there an easier way to
28
do it?
tracks would be great. There was more like 60 tracks.
Okay, so if you have to go through and solo like 10 DX tracks, but then you have to go and mute 50 sound effects and music, like, is that what you do, or is there a better way to do it?
The Beast guys, they do a lot of audio work on their stuff. So they want to keep that when it gets to the online for the Soundhouse. So much of it needs to be maintained in there. But we did a lot of just like sending like an AAF over to them.
And so you would just send the full AAF over.
Yeah.
So you didn't send them guide tracks?
You didn't do like a subsequence of just dialogue and a subsequence of sound effects and a subsequence
we did a little
of
bit of
music.
I don't know how much
I think one of the things that we're butting up against here that I think is interesting, and I think for editors to learn, is like we are trying to take an Avid workflow mindset and
always
and push it to this, which is maybe not the best way of thinking about this, which is like, this is a different program with different strengths and different weaknesses, and we are trying to take something that is from this other program and basically just mount it on top. I kind of want to transition this technical conversation into more of an almost philosophical one about this idea that, like, when you're editing stuff for, you've kind of had a career here that is editing for non-traditional TV, whether it was like Snapchat or Go90, or you did like Tubi stuff, right?
Yeah, all that kind of...
Like, it's kind of, in many ways, it's kind of like the forefront of internet media, of like high production internet media.
New media.
The
biggest of air quotes.
Yes. I'm curious how those different formats, I mean, we've talked a little bit about how those change your workflow already, about this kind of like vertical integration, right, that Beast has, right, which he's, very famous for. I'm wondering, how do you think that affects both as an assistant editor and then when you're editing, how that affects your creative approach to that stuff? Are you thinking about audience retention? Are you thinking about, how to make this faster, how to make it more exciting, or are you still applying a lot of those same traditional storytelling principles?
Story-wise, it's really the same to me.
Yeah.
But it's more that they're much more willing to try new tools and workflows. They don't really care as much about what the traditional way to approach any workflow or plan is. It just doesn't come up to them. It's like, what's the best, the cheapest, fastest way to get this done? We need the content out yesterday. And that's always been like the North Star for a lot of these companies.
It's just getting it out as fast as possible.
It's like, because the internet moves much faster than any traditional network did. I mean, I know like with Mr. Beast, they need to release a video every
week or whatever,
every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how big Mr. Beast is, they have to release 2 videos every month. It's like, it just has to happen. And if they don't, then they get like not demonetized, but like they fall off.
The algorithm falls off.
And so the algorithm like pushes so much, not just for them, but for every other thing, like every channel like that I've worked on, like that is the prime concern. Being able to attract eyeballs when there's already a bunch of companies, since we started the conversation, have like started and failed.
For Beast and the Beast show, what was it like converting the Beast workflow into one that would work for both you and then also these other assistant editors you brought on who were more traditionally Hollywood?
It was definitely a big explosion when it happened because
It's two worlds
Yeah.
smashing into each other.
two completely different ways of approaching things. Because for the first couple of weeks, it was just traditional Hollywood, and it was a complete offline workflow with just using proxies and stuff like that. But
In Avid or Premiere?
in Premiere,
It was always in Premiere.
always in Premiere because we always knew that the Beast team was going to be integrated and working on it, and they always use Premiere for everything. But FN Digital, who is the acquisition DIT company, they had always planned for an offline workflow for the whole thing. And so when the Beast guys came on, they were like, well, we need to work with the high resolution raw media because there's no point in trying to roto, proxies. It's like what we're gonna do. We have to redo everything when we go to online. That's just a waste. So
That's so crazy. They're rotoing in the middle of
they do all the visual effects and all of it. All is happening
on top of each other.
Yeah, it's all happening all at the same time. In the middle of the season, we had to switch from the offline workflow to being an online workflow with the high resolution. So while editors are working, no stop down, had to attach all the high resolution media, make sure that everything is working smoothly, nothing crashes, no downtime for the editors because they have a cut going out later today.
Do you have 10,000 VFX editors watching everything as shots come in and out and tracking it all?
We had a separate VFX company that was fantastic, but they did more of set extensions and
but who was tracking it in the edit itself?
We had
you're doing roto, so
if it was external VFX, we had a great guy named David Tomlin. But the internal stuff, the Beast guys, they just make effects. They would just do it. There's no they would come up with an idea and
the editors.
Yes, the editors they would go up to one of the senior guys over at Beast, or maybe even Jimmy himself, and be like, what do you think of this? And he's like, it's great. I love it. And it's in there. And so there's not really any
no
big tracking of that. So it just kind of happens.
That blows my
That's
mind.
fucking crazy. That's fucking crazy.
I cannot wrap my head around not tracking VFX.
Yeah, how do you know if a VFX plate is done? How do you know if how are you being we need to address shot 1050? How are you
Well, there is no shot 1050 in that example. It's
just a time code. The time code on this shot is not working. This needs to.
Yeah, and then the time code doesn't necessarily exist anymore when they decide to move everything around because there's no lock cuts yet or anything like that.
Is it that they final as they go then? How do you know if the shot's final or if the shot still needs work?
It's really whenever they show it during the screening, and then they get the sign off and they're like, yeah, we're good now, and then the VFX shot is done.
And there's no way to you just have to remember that that's the shot that's done.
Yeah, that's how
Oh my God.
That is different than the stuff and the stuff that was done externally where there was very thorough
planned
tracking.
out VFX shot.
Yeah, so if it was stuff in the first episode, the ceiling needed to be darkened in every shot because it's in a big warehouse hangar.
Or it needs to look like this and there's CGI and all this shit.
Oh yeah, and then in the floor of the episode, it's supposed to look kind of like it's an infinite drop that they're on these pillars that are 1,000 feet up. Yeah. But really it's only a couple feet. Yeah. So every one of those shots was done by an external VFX house, Spin. Those were all tracked. Those all had trackers and status, what version you're on, all that stuff was done traditionally.
Is everybody on the show 30 years old? This just sounds like this must be the youngest.
No, they're younger than that.
They're younger than that. They're my age. They're 25, 26.
They're anywhere between, I'd say 23, 27.
And are you guys, because Beast has, you watch a Mr. Beast video or you watch Beast games or anything like that, and there is such a style to the way that stuff is put together. Unique. It's very stylized. Mm-hmm. But you have this huge, massive team of editors and everybody like that. How are you guys creating a cohesive, narrative style, cohesion, stuff like that? Are these editors basically watch every Mr. Beast video and they'll make it like that?
Well, the Hollywood editors that we had on, you
did have Hollywood editors. You had standard Scripted and unscripted
Some
editors.
really great guys. We had like 20.
I feel like half of the town was working on these games at one point or another. Yeah.
And then we also had the Beast side. Mr. Beast's like main editor is a guy named Mac Hopkins. Mac was like the creator, one of the creators of the show, and he was like the creative voice of how things would work. So he was also on set the whole time, and he's an on-screen talent for the show.
Yeah.
So he's involved in every aspect of it. So he had like a vision for how he wanted everything to go. He basically edited the opening like 5 minutes of the show. That portion like sets like the tone and the vibe of how the show is stylized. And it utilizes, I don't know, like in that first 5 minutes, it's almost like 100 dynamic links into After Effects. It is just like boom, 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 go. And it's to the way the Beast does things, it's to retain attention. Because like we said, there are so many bits of media out there, and their audience can just click away at any second. And how do you get 400 million subscribers to a channel? You have to retain that attention like immediately. And that is what they are masters at.
Do you think that traditional film editors, Hollywood editors, I guess, can learn something from this YouTube editing style?
I mean,
or do you think that they're just completely different, that one doesn't really apply to the other?
I think that a lot of the editors did. A bunch, a good number of the editors are coming back for season 2, and the ones that really gelled well, they quickly were like, oh, I've got to up my After Effects skills. I have to like be able to ideate that way. I can't like think of like, oh, I'm just an editor. I'm just going to be cutting story and like pacing and stuff like that. I need to be able to be like a graphics person and a visual effects person, and
learning different areas of post,
be like, you don't necessarily have to be the one that can finish every one of those effects, but you have to be able to come up with
an idea,
and be able to execute at least the basic form of it and show like, this is what I was thinking, and then they can be able to pass it along to someone that maybe can execute it a little bit more efficiently. But you need to be able to have those cross skills.
At least understanding the concept of like how things and what can be done and probably what can't be done in the parameters that you guys have. Yeah.
Can you get that idea across the line so that the viewer instantly like, because the show's not going to pause. It's not going to take its time to explain something. Can that idea you have be instantly shown and understood by the viewer?
And do you think that kind of workflow is something that you would ascribe, like, let's say tomorrow you were to go cut a Lionsgate feature or something like that. Is that the kind of tools and things you learned from Beast Games is something that you would want to like bring to there? Like that idea that you are open to make your own graphics and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's incredibly useful to be able to do that. I don't think that I'd be able to do that very effectively with Avid.
Sure.
I think that's, is the title tool still the title tool?
The title tool is still the title tool.
Yeah.
It's just so interesting that it's like it's almost both from a technical and philosophical angle, like an entire shift of worldviews of going from like traditional Hollywood, which is like go slow, take your time, go steady, make sure the story works, make sure every beat hits, make sure like every frame counts, versus a more like, even the Beast approach of like, we're going to have 1,100 cameras on set. That is like almost antithetical to the Hollywood approach, which is like a lot of cameras is 3 cameras, right? And that's even, you're going like, oh my God, 3 cameras. We got a multicam setup. Like, that's crazy.
God, we have 4 cameras on our show now. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so many angles to look at.
Because one of the things that they want to do is they don't want to like craft like a fake story, really. They don't want to like be like, okay, now say this, or like, can you repeat that? That's something that I found that they don't ever want. They want to like...
That's a more traditional reality Hollywood approach.
Yeah, like, can you phrase your response this way? They would never do that.
They just do the event, film the event, and then turn it into
and then
content.
Like dig through the content. If you need an army to find the content, so be it. But you find what naturally happened. And if you need 1,000 cameras to do that, a ton of those cameras would be GoPros, where you'd have people talking to the camera, and just like saying what they're thinking and feeling. And then you need to have a small army of post people that will watch that footage, make selects, and like talk about like, this is the best portion of that.
Wow. To someone listening who is listening to what you do, we like to kind of phrase these questions like you're talking to like a post-PA or a college kid. I would say you're very much in the new Hollywood camp of things. What advice would you give to that person who is interested in having a career like yours or working on content like you've had the chance to work on, like this kind of faster paced, more move fast and break things kind of workflow? Like, what would you say to that person? What skills should they be learning? What tools should they be learning? Who should they be networking with? How should they be approaching their approach towards the entertainment industry?
Well, circle back to the very beginning with colleges and universities. I still think it's useful to go to those programs only if you're going to have them paid for you. Do not spend money on it.
Don't go into debt to go to film school.
Yes, do not spend your own money on film school. That is a waste of time and money, and no one will ever ask you, did you go to school and did you get a degree out here? They will not. In fact, they will go, you're a silly, stupid person for doing that. But yeah, also...
We are silly, stupid people over here, Michael.
But that being said,
I
don't think we've had somebody on the show yet who didn't go to film school.
We've had a handful of people who didn't go to film school.
The next thing that I would say is that a lot of times you hear people say, especially in post, well, this is how we've always done it.
Yes.
And I don't ever care when I hear that. That's silly also. That's dumb. I'd rather be lazy because I want to do something in the quickest, most efficient way possible.
Yeah.
And if that is completely different than it has ever been done before, why are we just going to do something just the way it's been done because that's how it was done? It doesn't matter what you did in the past. I want it to be like the best way forward now.
Yeah.
Then, if you're going to, be going into this field, you should be making these films with your friends all the time. You obviously, everyone knows you have a phone in your pocket, and the camera is better than any consumer grade or a prosumer or professional camera that I was able to use in school.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have any excuse anymore.
Yeah.
And you can do it anywhere you want. Remote workflows allow you to collaborate with everyone possible.
Do you think the era of people learning Avid and paying their dues and all the stuff like that, do you think that is still relevant to a lot of people, or do you think you can chart your own course outside of that kind of traditional path?
Despite everything I've said already, I am a traditionalist. I like film. I don't watch reality TV shows really that much, except Great British Bake Show. That's really it.
Great British Bake Off.
It's like, they don't even know the name of it, but I watch it all the time. Something much more calming than some of the other stuff I work on.
So you think it's still good to learn those foundational principles to editing?
It's very good to know the rules so that you know which ones you don't need. Because if you don't know what you don't need, then you're just blind. You don't understand the parameters or the perimeters of anything.
That makes sense.
Yeah, if you do that at least, then you know what you can do new. But regardless of it, you got to stay organized.
Yeah.
And not just be lazy in that regard, because, especially the bigger scale you get, the more of a Gordian knot you're going to have.
My kind of last question for you, I'm kind of combining them together. Where do you hope your career lies 10, 15 years from now? I mean, things have already changed in 10, 15 years so much. I can't even imagine where they will be in 10, 15 years. With your skill set, with your content, I guess, with the content you've worked on, I guess, what kind of projects do you hope to be working on 10, 15 years from now? And, what do you see the world of jumping? Because I know you've done quite a bit of editing, but you've also been a lead assistant and everything like that. So how do you see yourself jumping, if you do see yourself jumping from that assistant editor chair to full-time editor chair? And then what kind of projects do you want to be cutting?
The thing that I've spoken with the most with some of my peers and friends is we've wanted to, and I don't know if these will even exist in a couple of years, is a finishing house, an online house. I would love to do that sort of work, the very technical, specific, exacting workflows. And since there are such new products and codecs and all that kind of stuff coming out all the time, staying up to date on that stuff is fascinating. It's just a matter of, will that stuff always be needed? Will you need to have a separate workflow to do all of like the finishing and
Well,
coloring.
you need a company 3 and a new film. And
will they still exist when most of them are closing up shop, the giant companies?
Yeah.
Like,
Technicolor's gone.
Will just like having like an AI program be able to handle all of those aspects in the next 2 years? So it's very hard to know where the industry will go and who's going to want to throw in like $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 to set up a post house when that job may not be a title.
Yeah. Cool. Any dream projects you want to work on one day?
Severance season 5.
Severance.
All right.
Season 5.
That's
3 through 4, they'll still be getting their legs on.
Well, I mean, that's their production company, right?
Is it called Season 5?
I think it's like Season 5 Productions or something like that. Am I crazy? I think it.
I believe it. Is that Ben Stiller's company?
I don't doubt it.
Oh yeah, 5th season is.
Oh, fifth season. Is
Not
what-
season 5.
Okay.
5th season.
So you'd love to work for 5th season.
There we go. That'd be great.
Splice and spew time.
Yeah, let's do it.
Splice and spew.
All right, my spew is going to be, I'm going to continue my series here. And then if Leanne listens to it, we re-listen to it, and I realize I already talked about it, I will re-record it on my phone.
Oh my God.
I am going to talk about Lost Season 3. God damn it. We're going to continue my series of talking about how goddamn great Lost is. All right, Lost Season 3, guys. I feel like Lost Season 3 gets a bad rep because there's like quite a bit of like filler episodes in the middle of the season, and they kind of like split it up in this weird way. They were kind of in this big argument with ABC about how to continue it, right? Because David Lindelof and J.J. Abrams are this kind of thing where they're like, listen, Lost is supposed to be this like short concatenated story. It's like kind of, the beginnings of like what HBO is trying to do. But ABC is like, no, this is our new fucking Grey's Anatomy, right? You're just going to keep running this shit until it goes into the ground. So there's kind of some like crappy answers in there, but still at the heart of it, Lost Season 3 is still goddamn Lost. And you know what Lost Season 3 has, Leanne? I'm so glad you asked. It has the episode where Hurley finds the fucking car. And if that's not the best, and he rides it down the goddamn hill, and if that is not one of the best episodes of fucking television, I don't know what is. No
spoilers, Michael. No spoilers, though.
The show came out in 2007. You don't get a spoiler warning anymore.
With Sawyer and Jin, right?
Yeah. Yes. It's yeah. Best show on television ever created. Everyone should go watch it. Anyway, we learn more about Desmond. The hatch blows up.
I don't know who any of these people are. You can't spoil it for me. I guess I'm going to start tonight because I.
Anyway, go watch Lost
Are
Season
you
3.
done?
That's it.
I don't know if
Yeah,
you're done or
I'm
not.
done. I'm done.
All right, I guess I will go. Guys, listen, the pool is fixed.
The pool is fixed.
The pool is fixed. Last episode, I complained about how my pool wasn't fixed. The pool is fixed. I was in it yesterday. It is a nice, normal water temperature. It's not like the cold hose temperature. And then there's also a mode to change it to spa. So you can be sitting in the pool while it's in the sun, and it's a nice, like, cooling off, refreshing. And then when the shade comes, which it does, because I only get the sun for about an hour or two, you can change it to spa. And then it's very nice and warm. And moral of the story is, hound your HOA people every month about something that you want fixed, because they will forget, and it's up to you to not forget. So if something in your apartment or house or whatever, hound your lease people to get it fixed, whether it is the people that you're leasing from, or if you just so happen to have the contact of your HOA, which I did. But yes, if you are paying rent for something and it's not working, get it fixed. It should be fixed. It is on them to fix it. Do not let it go. Don't be like, oh, I don't want to bother them because, like, it's okay. I can deal with the fact that there's no light in this room. And, like, if you can't do it, if you can't reach it, I'm telling you, just email them. Just be annoying. It's got to be done. And you're paying money for it. So, like, why not have a good experience if you're paying money for it?
I'll vote for you for president of the HOA.
Thank you. My friend, actually, yesterday, I was telling him about all this, and then he was like, you should be in the HOA. I was like, I know nothing about the HOA. What are you talking about?
Don?
Well, I'm hoping to no longer soon be paying rent because I'm looking with my wife to buy a house.
Woo!
Wow.
So that's
a
gonna
big thing in
be
LA.
yes, it's gonna be part of my rant here because we've been on and off looking for half a year. Now we're very serious. and we are putting in an offer today, actually.
Wow.
Woo!
What
And
neighborhood?
Van Nuys.
Oh, Van Nuys. Lovely.
But it's I know Van Nuys has a big spread of like lovely to not lovely.
Yep.
5 minutes from here.
Yeah, this area that we're looking is quite lovely. It is just west of the 405.
Oh, Balboa.
Yeah, right
Yeah.
over there. So, all the thoughts about that, but, it is very, very annoying and stressful to try and look for a house in Los Angeles with all of the ups and downs of the industry, with how, cheap and affordable housing is in this city.
Famously.
Yes,
Yes.
it's very, very cheap. So cheap. But, if we had decided to look for a house in 2021, the house that we are currently looking at would have been half the price.
40% cheaper.
Yeah,
50%
and
cheaper.
the mortgage rate would also be half the percent. So just just dealing with that kind of thing while the tumultuousness of our job and our industry, that is the rant that that's all I'm thinking about these days.
Housing.
Yeah, housing, and I know that that's on everyone's mind in Los Angeles is like where the hell are you going to live that you can actually afford?
All right, I
All
think
right,
that'll do it for us.
Thank you, Don, for coming on, and thank you for listening to this episode of Sips and Clips. You keep on sipping, and we'll keep on clipping. Bye.
Bye. Sips and Clips is a podcast produced by Leanne McFalls and Michael Schusterman. Graphic by Max Schulman. Sound mixing by Cassidy Legan. Sound editing by Zach Griffin. Follow us on Instagram at Sips and Clips Pod. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.